All right, welcome. It's 12:30, and if you can hear the sound of my voice, raise your hand. I see hands up already. Look and see who's here. All right. Well, thank you, Zachary. Sharing. All right, let's go ahead and, I don't know, talk about statistics. Yay. All right, a favorite subject. So this is sort of, I don't know, a conglomeration of information I have taken from a bunch of different areas. Think of it like the way Frankenstein was built, maybe a little bit like that. If I had had a lot more time, I would have organized it into, special sections and things like that. But, this is what you get for free. I'm going to, in addition to talking about what's going on in the market and where the market is going, I'm going to go in probably into the multiple listing service and show you some of the things that, I normally do in order to come up with these statistics, and also to give you an idea of what you can do. Let me turn off my text messages so I don't pay attention to it all the time. I've got some escrows and listings, and anyhow, people are texting, which always gets my attention. Squirrel, that sort of thing. Now, to start with, and there is a handout, I believe, for those of you that are looking for a handout. We're going to go through some national information, some state information, some local information. As a general idea, talking about trends for 2021, we might want to focus on active market data. Now, by active market data, I mean active listings. In a market like we're in right now, watching active listings and pending, right? If you're looking at, what is the definition of current inventory? A question I've been asked many times. Is current inventory, when you see that in a multiple listing service or Realtor.com or Redfin, what does that mean? Current inventory, does it mean active listings only? Does it mean active and pending, including contingent? And the answer is it includes all three. Right, and so I'm actually looking at all three, but active listings are going to give us some information that we're not going to get from closed sales. And that's because it takes a while for sales to close. Now, some of the slides I have comes from a California Association of Realtors presentation, which they did in October, right? They did that in October. So what would be the most recent data they could have in October? Well, maybe September, right? And sometimes when you're looking at the Schiller Price Index and Bloomberg and things like that, they're actually giving you data that is 6 months old, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months old, and our market, that's too long to wait. So where I'm going with this is that what's going on with active listings, and I'm going to show you when I get to the MLS what you could be doing every day so that you know what's going on. I'm going to throw that in for free. That's going to give us a lot of information about the market. For example, are homes generally selling for 100% or maybe a little bit more than what they're listed for? And the answer is yes, right? We're going to take a look at some of those statistics. So if we know what the median price and average price is of active listings, new listings, right, that have come on the market, will that not give us an idea of what eventual sales prices are going to look like? I'm just saying. We're going to talk a little bit about the implications of low inventory and rising prices. The future of distressed mortgages, forbearance, and foreclosures. I'm going to cover that a little bit up front. As I said, Frankenstein, there's different pieces we're going to cover overall. You've heard of boom towns, You've heard of boom towns. They're now called Zoom towns. And we're going to talk about who are they, where are they, and what's going on, and some of the risks for our market. The two big ones could be rising interest rates, and if there's a failure to work out some meaningful stimulus package. Just saying. So before I get into it, this is courtesy of, I didn't ask their permission, I guess, but from Altos, which is a company that does research for real estate. And I just like this slide, and I'm going to talk about some of these things a little bit later. But the question is there a upcoming foreclosure wave, right? This is a question you might have asked. Back in February and March, when the whole COVID thing started to happen, there was a flurry of predictions. The market's going to collapse. The bubble's going to pop. There's going to be, all these bad things. In fact, it was so much so that I went and recertified my BPO designation. For those of you that are not familiar, a BPO is a broker price opinion, which is used by REOs and foreclosure companies and things like that. It hasn't actually helped me any, right? And one of the reasons that there hasn't been a big increase in notices of default and foreclosure is there's been mortgage forbearance, and people have a lot of equity. I was selling real estate back in, well, let's say for a long time, but certainly back in 2006 and 7, and people were doing 100% financing, and there were people that the day they bought the house, they were underwater, right? They had paid too much and they had financed 100%. 50% of the people that are in forbearance have already left, and millennial demand, which is a totally different topic, right? But the millennials are approaching and entering their peak years for earning and are going to be buying properties. And because of that and the low interest rates, let's say we did have a bunch of properties being thrown on the market. Right, a lot, right? Now, given the current state of our market, that would be like throwing peanuts at a starving elephant, right? They'd be sucked up right away. Right now, the demand is such, and it's going to be growing with millennials, and as long as interest rates are slow. Now, on the other side, if the stimulus fails, if a recession deepens, rates spike, then maybe my BPO designation will be a useful thing again, right? I remember back in February and March and April, agents were dusting off their distressed property specialist and REO specialist and short sales specialist, thinking, it's all coming back, right? Well, not so much. Now, it's a different world in the commercial, and MF means multifamily market. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But and I do commercial real estate as well, and even in multifamily, up until this year, I had buyers from China that had basically said anything you can find in Santa Clara County up to 20 units, we'll buy. Price is not a ceiling, right? Just find us a 20-unit maximum multifamily in Santa Clara County, and it's an all-cash deal. We're ready to go. I didn't sell them any because there weren't any. People were not putting them on the market. But eviction moratoriums, rent, what do they call it? Embargoes, or where people stop paying their rent. The rent control, just cause evictions. And there's more of them available now. And so in the commercial and in multifamily, we could be seeing a little bit more of that. Right? How are you positioned for that? Now, these are some slides I stole. Research just this morning. And I know this is probably redundant for most of you, because I'm sure that everybody, because you guys are really into this, was watching the 2020 real estate forecast summit done by the National Association of Realtors, right? I'm sure you all were. And so these slides, were from today, but you'll notice they still sort of end up January through July of 2020. But part of and there's other information about the jobs, but jobs recovery, we need another 9.8 million to get us back to the prior peak, right? And you can see what the job market looked like in the United States. And what happened, that was obviously when the pandemic hit, it went down. It's been recovering, but there's still a long way to go. And the monthly job additions seem to be fizzling out. You can see the spike at the bottom where COVID hit and there was a lot of unemployment. And you can see how it's been going up and down in terms of the number of new jobs, but November, it sort of fizzled out. Right now, the economy, we're talking about the economy, right? The unemployment rate spiked, right, in March, high in April and May. It's been going down, but you can still see we still have a long way to go before we get back to where we used to be, right, in terms of employment. And of course, how well that's going to happen will depend upon how well COVID gets under control, whether or not there's a stimulus bill, whether or not there's mortgage forbearance, and a lot of different things that frankly, I don't know. The job market variations varied a lot depending on where you were, right? And you can see the different areas. California had a minus 7.8. And there's actually, no, look at Idaho, right? I know you've always wanted to live in Boise. We're going to talk about Boise a little bit. But Idaho is one of the few places that remain flat, right, during COVID. And you can get an idea of how, you know, the employment changed depending upon where you were. We're in California. We had a 7.8% decline as a result of, you know, around the COVID time. But consumer confidence is up and down and up and down and up and down. And that line, the 100%, is essentially the neutral line, right? Where people are seeing, if it goes above the line, it means that they have confidence in the economy. If it goes below the line, not so much. And you can see how that's fluctuated. It went down below the line, and it's, you know, wiggling a little bit right now. Again, you know, it depends on a lot of different factors. These are some national home sales. You can, and I'm going to talk about Santa Clara County and some of our local markets. And what I see is what this looks like, and particularly the graph on the right, which is year-to-date sales in 2020 are pretty much the same as they were in 2019, and not that much different from, you know, 2018. And then the one on the left talks about monthly and annual. You can see the drop that occurred in April and then, you know, back up. New home sales, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. That's actually gone up. I've noticed that the new home builders are developing an attitude, right? You know, their response to us depends on how hard it is to sell new homes. Right now, they're trying to cut us out of the market. If that changes, they'll be back, you know, bringing donuts and things to the office and buying lunch and inviting us to go to wine and cheese parties at their new home subdivisions. For a lot of reasons, they're not doing that now. But you can see that new home sales, monthly and annual, since the pandemic has gone up a lot. Looking forward indicators. This is the national prognostication, right? They are looking at the pending contracts, and we're going to talk about that as part of my analyzing the market every day, is up 20% as of October. Again, most national numbers are a little bit behind, but I'm going to show you how to find out really accurate ones from your market. Obviously, the pending sales lead to closed sales, which means that we'll then have more closed sale prices. When mortgage purchase applications go up, that was by the end of November, they're up 27%. Now, about a third, not quite a third, but 28% of the people who apply for a loan never get a loan for whatever reason. They decide not to buy, you know, the lender finds out that they're a bankrupt, unemployed arsonist, right? And they don't get a loan. Central Lock, which we use Supra, you know, over in our area, but Central Lock is a lockbox program that is pushed by the National Association of Realtors. Showings are up as of October. Buyer traffic, according to Realtor.com, up a lot, and mortgage rates are low. These are all indicators as to what's going to be happening in the market. Supply of inventory. Did you know that we don't have enough inventory? Right now, there's some changes in that. There's some increase in listings going on right now. We'll get into that, but it's pretty much at an all-time low. Absorption. Oh, now office and retail space. We're going to talk again about that, but net absorption. So how strong is the retail market? It's a lot weaker than it was, and it kind of depends upon what kind of commercial or office space you're looking at, but obviously it's not doing as well. I've actually got a couple of commercial transactions going on. Both of them are retail, and to some extent the weakening of the market has helped, because one of the problems that we've had in the past is that most of the people selling retail space, office space, wanted to do a 1031 exchange. And although it wasn't a problem finding a buyer for their property, the problem was finding the replacement property. We're not having that problem right now, right? So there were lots of choices for replacement properties, but you can see the office retail space has dropped. Forecast, right? This is a consensus outlook. So this is, I think, 100 different economists. Someplace there's a list of their names, you know, in case you want to know. They were asked, this is the average for the forecast of what they expect to happen with GDP. It's going to go up, according to the economists, 3.5%. In 2021, and employment will be about 6.2%, inflation 1.7%, that's inching up. Interest rates are shooting way up, way up to 3, and maybe in 2022, 3.25. The federal funds rate about even next year. Home price change year over year projected to be about 8% for 2021. And we're going to look at what is the projections in California, 2022, maybe 5.5%. Now, the reason that this could be important to you is all this data from the Realcast. So how do they collect and compile the data? The NAR does research on, go to the National Association of Realtors site. They have a data section, and you can download the actual spreadsheets. Dimitri, you'll like that. You can download all of their spreadsheets. And by the way, if you go to the page where the summit is, they'll give you copies of the slides and the recording in a couple of days. But you know, so why would this be? Let's just start being here. Year price changes year over year, projected to go up 8% in 2021 and 5.5% in 2022. So a buyer says to you, well, I think I'm going to wait till next year because there'll be a lot more homes on the market and prices are going to drop. And I've been reading the Housing Bubble blog, you know, Dr. Housing Bubble's blog, and he says that the sky is going to fall and we might as well wait and we'll get a really good deal. That's not what most economists are projecting is going to happen. They're projecting that prices are not going to go up by 15–20%, which is what they've been doing, just a modest 8% increase, right? So it's not necessarily going to improve next year in terms of pricing. Housing starts down and up a little bit. And right now, about 21% of the people are working from home. That is expected to go down. That's, of course, assuming the vaccines all work and other things are working. Let me do that. In the consensus view of working from home, the actual latest was 21%. I think I already covered that. It was only 6%. I guess that's why I kept this slide In 2019, only 6% of workers are working from home. That went up to 21%. Even in 2022, assuming the forecast is accurate, it's going to be double what it was in 2019. Commercial real estate, it depends on what it is. I've had clients that wanted to buy hotels up to 5 million. You couldn't buy a hotel for 5 million. There were none for sale, just couldn't find any. Well, I don't know. That's changed right now. And so the outlook as to that market is a whole nother class, right? And usually when I talk about commercial real estate, I use data from CoStar, not from the National Association of Realtors, but that's a totally different class. Top prospective markets, according to the National Association of Realtors for 2021 through 2022. I have something a little more recent about what's happening now. You can see the cities that are expected to have large growth. When I get down to California specific migration, I'm going to talk about how you could use that information to actually get real estate business, which is sort of what I said. What are the big markets? Phoenix is expected to go up, and this is the ranking by the different, economists. Austin, Texas, Charlotte, Atlanta, Houston, Denver, going down that list. Right now, I'll throw out one of them here. How many real estate agents do you know in Phoenix? How many real estate agents do you know in Austin, Texas? Do you know that there are people from California and the Bay Area that move to Phoenix and Austin, Texas? Do you know real estate agents in Phoenix and Austin, Texas? If the answer is no, which is typically the answer I get, maybe that would be something you would want to do. I'm just saying. Right? Because they have people from California going there, and they're probably interested in talking to an agent in California who might have people moving to those cities. So here are the top housing markets for 2021 according to Realtor.com. I found this particularly interesting. Look at the #1 market projected for Realtor.com. Sacramento, Roseville, Arden, Arcade, these are metropolitan areas. Its projected 2021 growth is 17.2%. Year over year, price growth 7.4, combined 24. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And here we are. We probably could guess why Sacramento. I'll talk more about that. But here we are, #2 for those of us in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, California market. Projected growth in sales year over year, 10.8, according to the mystics at the NAR, and a 10.8% projected increase in price through 2021. There's Charlotte and Boise and Seattle. I'd like to be knowing people in all these different areas. Phoenix, Harrisburg, Oxnard, Riverside. Yeah. And then, oops, that's not what I really wanted to do. I didn't need to do all of that. Let me just, all right, cool. What is it about this list, right? What is it about this list that is, well, similar? One is a lot of these cities are what the NAR refers to as tech titans. So tech salaries in Sacramento, San Jose, Boise, Denver, Seattle have driven home prices through the roof. Areas such as Charlotte and Phoenix are establishing themselves as rising tech hubs, adding more jobs. By the way, I've had clients from Apple that were moving to Austin, Texas, right? Just throwing that out there. The projected unemployment rate for the 2021 top markets, that was that list of 10, is 7.9% compared to the national average of 8.2. Tech-related jobs are an average of 8.7 of the workforce in those areas, but only 6.4 overall. They're all tech areas. They also have relative, emphasis on the word relative, affordability. These aren't all cheap. However, they're cheaper than where the people are usually coming from. They're affordable. So, for example, I highlighted this: buyers in Sacramento can buy a house for $284 a square foot. I'm doing a market analysis on a property down in Morgan Hill, and we're looking at $700, $800 a square foot. It's a really nice place. And you can obviously get more bang for your buck than you can in San Francisco or Silicon Valley. That's why people are going to Sacramento. They're also, these areas tend to be home to younger households. There's a report that I have on what's happening with the millennial market, but these top markets have a larger share of younger households. Many millennials are already homeowners, and some, like the last line here, some other group of markets such as San Jose, Seattle, and Denver, the high cost of living has made home ownership difficult accomplishment, not just for millennials, but for everybody. So what people are saying is they can't buy a house in San Jose, but they can buy a house in Sacramento, right? And if they can get a job in Sacramento, well, you get the idea. Also, what's interesting, and this could be if you're thinking about who and what areas you're going to want to develop referral arrangement with, state capitals: Sacramento, Boise, Phoenix, Harrisburg, Denver, right? That government presence sometimes creates more stability. Plus, not government jobs, but in addition to that, a lot of them have a more diverse workplace. There's education and healthcare and technology and military, and the GDP growth rate for those top 10 is higher, much higher than it is for the ones that are not in the top 10. Let's look at Sacramento. Do you know real estate agents in Sacramento? I do. I actually had somebody refer a buyer for San Bruno to me, and I referred a buyer who wanted to buy in Roseville. I'm just saying it would be good to know some real estate agents in Sacramento. Why? The median price, $554,000. It went up 7.4%, but you're going to see that's a lot less than was San Jose, right? The sales went up 17.2%, still less than it was in the San Jose. Just saying. And part of the reason is Sacramento is not, you're not like in a totally different world. If you wanted to go to the Bay Area, you could do that. If you wanted to go skiing or to the wine country, you could do that. It's not just people that are renting that are going there, but you have empty nesters that are looking to downsize, first-time home buyers. They have good schools. And some of them have very good schools in Sacramento. That's what's pushing people there. This is what Realtor.com says about San Jose, right, as one of those areas, and that's really the metropolitan area, 1,199,000. That's averaging all the different kinds of properties. We're going to look at a breakdown of that a little bit later. 10.8% increase, strong economy, good schools, but there isn't a lot of new construction going on. Inventory is very tight. Weekly housing trends. Now, all of this is available through our union, right? The National Association of Realtors. Did you know that every Friday they put out a weekly trend looking at the numbers for the previous week? The median prices, so this is national, grew 13.5%. New listings were down 7%, but they're up in the Northeast and West regions, including here. And the total inventory was down. That's still true. Time on market was 14 days faster than last year. Our time on market is more like 14 days, right? But still, it gives you an idea. So that weekly trend that ended on December 5th, it shows you what's been happening with new listings year over year, the first 2 weeks in March versus the end of November versus the week in November 21st or 28th. You get the idea. You can see that they're selling faster. There's more listings are down, and prices are up. Prices are up. How about renters? right? And I'm hopefully going to be able to put all this together at the end into some sort of a coherent theme. But the NAR also puts out a rent report, which they did for November. And it gives us the numbers, which look ridiculously low for our area. But what it's showing is that the median rent for studios was down 1.1%, one bedrooms, the median rent were declining, and counties in the San Francisco Bay Area are seeing the largest declines in rent, as is Manhattan, Boston, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. In fact, this is their list of the top. This is national list, as you can see from some of this, although we're on the list in a few places, of the top 10 areas that had a decrease in rent. San Francisco, you probably already heard, it's taking a beating. They're fleeing the city, you know. But look at number 4, Santa Clara, year over year at a 20.0% drop in rent. By the way, do you think people that own multifamily properties in Santa Clara may be thinking of selling it? I don't know, right? I'm just saying, right? It's weaker. And down at the bottom is Alameda. And again, that's the area. And the rents there year over year have dropped 15%. Monthly November trends, inventory is down. I think we've already sort of covered that. But this is something I wanted, I did a screenshot of, and I wanted to show you. There was a long, long list of all of the metropolitan areas that had an increase in new listings. I didn't splice this together. This is number 1 and number 2 nationally with the number of new listings. Number 1 is San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward metropolitan area. And their active listing count year over year, it says new listings was 41.8%. Look what's underneath that. The number 2 area for new listings increase was the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, California. I'm going to show you that my research with the MLS shows pretty much the same thing. The recovery index, and you can see in the top, by the way, in the NAR, you can select any metropolitan area in the United States and get data, right? Some of you I know have never done that because maybe you have a life, unlike me, you know. I have no social life, so that's, you know, this is what I do. So for the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara metropolitan area, the line is where that's sort of the baseline. You can see what happened when COVID happened, and we've, well, recovered and then some. I also threw in the San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward area because some of you are probably in that area too. You can see it did recover, went down again, but still those areas have recovered. This is from Market Watch, December 9th, yesterday, I guess. If we don't pass a new stimulus package soon, there could be more problems. If there's a wave of foreclosure, according to our friends at Redfin, the market can withstand a wave of foreclosures right now. Again, millennials, low interest rates, and even foreign investors. There was a survey that showed that a lot of the foreign investors are waiting for opportunities in our market because they would rather invest here than, you know, other places. This is some information I borrowed from the California Association of Realtors. I deleted some stuff. Notice October 13th is when this was done. It's been past that, but some of this is predictive. I just borrowed a few of their slides. You can see, you know, you probably have heard there's a virus, you know, it's having an effect on our economy. Uncertain path of recovery. This is the estimates for the growth in the economy for the 2021 from different people. The Bank of the West, Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association. You can see it ranges from 3.4 to 4.6. They of course are, I don't know what they're assuming about stimulus packages. or what the Federal Reserve is going to do to bolster the dollar. They've done a lot so far. There are some businesses that are pandemic winners. And the thing you're going to notice, so we're talking about companies whose stock has gone up. Their stock has zoomed, right? And you may recognize that these are all cloud-based companies. While that is happening, there's been the retail apocalypse, right? These are bankruptcies, store closings, and they're mostly in the retail and some office space areas, including commercial office space. And by the way, this is affecting real estate companies because there are a lot of real estate companies with large offices and people aren't going in. Even those few that are open, you know, it's just not a thing really to go in. And so the cube farms or people are pushed together. It's going to be a while, I think, before that's a thing. Multifamily, I already talked a little bit about that. That hasn't dropped as much as it was projected. However, it's wobbly, right? Because of all of those different issues. Right now is not necessarily the best time to own apartment buildings and be a landlord. Now, what that means is that if you have investors who can wait a little bit, some of this stuff will be affordable, and a lot of it hasn't been affordable in a long time, and there's going to be some opportunities. This is assuming that there's going to be vaccinations that are going to work, or the vaccine, and that will, you know, that will return more to normal. Our recovery is a K-shaped recovery. When I look at what's going on in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of competition for expensive homes. You know, I'm showing homes that are $3 million, and, you know, people are able to buy them without selling other property. So for the professionals, particularly in the tech, they're making money, and some other areas, but everyone else, you know, maybe not so much. This is just a little bit about what's happened this year. We've actually had a lot of first-time home buyers, relatively speaking to previous years. That's probably a lot to do with low interest rates. Housing affordability has improved, but it's still an issue in Santa Clara County. It's really an issue, right? And if you want to look at the market in your particular neighborhood, because this varies a lot. Investor buyers, you know, you have the flips and the holds, right? It's down, right? It's down in 2020. What percentage of them are flipping versus renting? You can see that those numbers have been changing. I didn't want to spend a lot. International buyers are down. Why are people buying? And affordability, why are people relocating? Excuse me. The quality of life now is number one. It used to be housing affordability is why people were relocating. I think I saw a hand up. If there's, I don't know if Lydia, if you have a question. If you have a question, type it in. But quality of life, right? I've got people interested in buying in Morgan Hill. I realize we're not exactly, you know, Boise, but they work in Los Altos. Their company doesn't require that they go to the office every day. They want to live in near downtown. They want a different life. They want a different life, right? Isn't that? So more sellers are moving, right? More people are moving out of California. By the way, the Census Bureau website actually has a download you could do that shows, and it's for 2019, not 2020, that particular one, but it shows state to state movement of people. Right? And you can see that when people sold, this is according to the California Association of Realtors 2020 Housing Market Survey, 36% of the people that sold stayed within the same county. 18% went to another county in California, 30% went to another state, right? 1% went out of the United States, 15% had no idea. You know, those are the ones that rent, you know, they buy the motorhome and just, you know, just start driving. So we have about a third of the people staying in the county. We have about a third of the people leaving the county or leaving the state. That's actually close to 50%. They're leaving the county or leaving the state. Migration trends, it's housing affordability that is pushing this, right? And you can see over time in California, now in our area, in the Bay Area, housing affordability is much lower. It peaked back in 2012. I'm not sure why I want. In California, and for those of you, this shows housing affordability. Lawson County, right, has the highest affordability. Right, you can see here's the middle is for California. If you want to know where we are, right down there is San Francisco. There is San Mateo, Marin, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz. Yeah. Alameda is a little bit further this way, but affordability, it's a thing. We have more of everything except houses. So the population went up from 86 to 2019. The number of real estate agents went up from 86 to 2019. The number of sales went up from 86 to 2019, but the number of building permits has gone down by a significant amount, which is part of the reason that we, are where we are. In 46 of most of the people, half of the people in California are renting, right? And that's again about the affordability. Now, and we also, have you heard that there's a potential for climate change, right? And there's projected to be more wildfires, which also is a reason for people to move. Where do we go from here? Let me so some of this I went over, so I don't know, it'd be good for you to know. But the other thing is, if affordability is an issue in our area and people cannot afford to buy a house, and they have to rent because they can't afford to buy a house, and they're looking to move to an area where they can afford to buy a house, and we're able to identify those likely areas, I've already given you some lists, then I'm back to, we could reach out to agents in that area. You could, depending on the company you're at and their model, you could actually have a team of agents where there's agents that you're working with in Nevada and Oregon and Arizona and Texas. And by the way, Nevada and Texas are two of the states that more people move to out of California. You could be identifying areas in California that people from the Bay Area move to and developing referral arrangements with those areas. When you're sitting around sheltering in place, and my question would be, do you know any agents in Sacramento? Do you know any agents in Las Vegas? Do you know any agents? Tahoe, of course. I used to have a Nevada license, by the way, a broker's license in Nevada. I used to teach people how to pass the Nevada real estate exam. I'm not kidding. And so I get people saying, I want to get my Nevada license again. I want to move to Tahoe. Those prices have gone up like 30%. But you understand, and Tahoe, by the way, is not friendly with other agents coming there and writing offers. I'm just saying it's way more difficult to do this in Tahoe than it is in Sacramento. So you might want to develop referral partners in those different areas, because if they're a seller here, then they could refer that listing to you. If they're a renter here, by the way, can you identify who's a renter? Can you get lists of people that are renters? Is there a way to communicate with renters? The answer is yes. If you're in my coaching program, we'll talk about how to do that. I know how to find renters, and these are renters that are likely to be moving to another area. You could get them before they start to go, right? I'm just saying there are ways of doing that. Where do we go? Work from home. I stole this from the California Association of Realtors, people sharing their work from home arrangements, right? I like the one with the garbage can, and the dog. So keep this in mind, right, this picture, because we're going to come to a statistic in Santa Clara County that I'm going to ask you about why, and you might, this is our, this is from the CAR. The biggest wild card, of course, is the coronavirus. Is there going to be a stimulus package? Are the vaccines going to work? Are we going to get it under control? That's really what's affecting the economy. Oh, I didn't know I did that. 24 million Americans are still receiving unemployment. Ongoing recovery, but a slower pace, and again, some of this, I told you it was a Frankenstein. I didn't, organize everything because I'm lazy and I had other things to do. Foreclosures could be a problem if we have people losing their jobs, there's no stimulus, the vaccine isn't working as well, isn't distributed enough, all that sort of stuff. But the projection, it's more like 2015, which was a bump, than 2008, which was, well, a crash, right? A big crash. Back in 2008, sales dropped by about 50% and prices in the United States dropped by about 50%. Right, we're not looking at anything like that. 2015 was a little bit of a downswell, but then it went back up. Most homeowners have equity, particularly in California. As I mentioned, that was different. Even nationally, most people that own a home have equity. What that means is they don't have to do a short sale. It doesn't have to go to foreclosure. They're working to keep their house if possible, because interest rates are very low. But if they can't keep the house, they can sell the house without having it to go to foreclosure. I wouldn't necessarily be investing in short sale courses, REO courses, and things like that. We're a long way from that right now. Not as many problems in the mortgage market. I have other graphs that show how credit was back in the days when we had the big crash compared to now. They're a lot stricter now than they were back in those days when you had stated income loans and the liar loans and things like that. And those two show in 2005 what we were doing in the market versus 2019 in terms of the volume and applications. Balance sheets, people are doing better financially. Aren't as inflated as in 2005. So here we go. California Association of Realtors projection baseline, what's going to happen in California, right? NAR, by the way, has slightly different numbers, but look at the median price, right? And they're projecting a 4.4% increase baseline, right? A 3.5% increase in sales. This is for California. The assumptions of the baseline is the vaccine is available in the beginning of 2021, no COVID surge, this flu system, GDP rate at 4.2%, income at 3.3%, inventory pretty much unchanged, foreclosures low. The worst case scenario is the vaccine isn't going to be available till the end of 2021. There's more flu resurgence. California is going to shut down for 2 months. I don't know if that sounds familiar. Zero growth in GDP, income is dropping, no federal stimulus. Right now, they're also and there's a slide that shows what the worst case would look like. And if it's the worst case scenario, the median price could drop by 2021, 16.4%. Could be worst case scenario. So if I were talking to a home seller and, why haven't you sold your home? The market is hot for sellers. Why haven't you sold their home? Well, I'm waiting to get the most money as possible. I see it going up and up and up. I'm going to wait for it to peak. And then once it's peaked, then I'm going to sell the property, cash in. Okay, that seems like a reasonable plan. How do you know that the market is peaked unless the peak is already passed, right? How do you know we've hit the peak? Until it starts to go down, then we know. And usually once the market starts to go down, all the other people like you that are waiting on the side for the market to peak, and then they're going to put their homes on the market, they put their homes on the market, which means that there's an increase in inventory. And if you're a buyer and you see the prices are going down and inventory is going up, buyers typically back off because now they want to ride the roller coaster down again. Have you ever heard of housing market cycles? Have you guys ever heard of that? that the housing market, I ask sellers this, a housing market goes through cycles. Do you have any idea of how long a typical housing market cycle is historically? What that usually looks like? You know, oftentimes it's been 7 to 10 years, maybe 12 years, right? Is sort of like at the peak. Well, let's see, when was the last big downturn? 2008, 2009, right? Let's say not 2009, and 10 years, 2019, 11 years, 2020, 2021 would be 12 years. So we don't know, but if the worst case scenario happens, which it could, given some of those factors, the housing market starts to go down. It could drop 16.4%. And by the way, it's going to take a year or so for it to hit the bottom, and then it flattens out for a year or two, and then it starts to come back up. And you know, it's going to probably be 7 to 9 years before it gets back to where it is today, you know. But if you sold the property today and you cashed in, and then you bided your time and the market goes down, and then you buy when the market is down, and then it goes back up, you understand what I'm saying? You might want to think about that. One of the things I'm going to be focusing on with the agents that I coach is words to say, dialogues to say to people that are thinking about buying and selling. Potential REO scenarios. REO, for those of you who don't know, means real estate owned by the bank. Means that nobody bought it at the foreclosure sale, usually because it was way upside down. Back in 2009, there were a lot of them. Over half of our market was bank-owned properties. We got really good at short sales and REO offers and things like that. Baseline has it down to 8 to 10% maybe of our market. Worst case, 30 to 40%. My VPO thing is going to come in handy at that point. Best case scenario, it's going to be low. Right now, we're not seeing a lot of it because there's mortgage forbearance. Now, this is something I put together about what's going on in Santa Clara County, right? And for those of you that are in my coaching program or who I'm working with, I'll give you the slides. If you're not, you got to send me $50 or something like that. And so I looked at home sales, and this is for November of, and this first one is what's happened this year, January through the end of November 2020 compared to January through the end of November of 2019. Notice it's about flat. Condominiums are down 2%, but the others are just down about 1%. It's not a significant difference in the total sales year over year. Now, if we look at the month of November 2020 and compare that to the month of November 2019, in a bit that's unfair because November is typically the beginning of the, the holiday season, right? Most real estate agents, of course, are familiar with the holiday season. For many real estate agents, the holiday season starts on Halloween and then ends around the Super Bowl, right? Something like that. But for the rest of the world, November is when it starts to go down in December, but because we had a big drop back in March and April, that sort of pushed everything back. But the number of sales November year over year for single family homes is up 29%. Number of sales, 29%. And if you look at price ranges, most of the sales were in the $800,000 to $1 million price range, which is where they were last year, 226. 1.2 to 1.4 were 205 sales in November. And that number, that particular band is up 39% year over year. Then the next largest group was the $2 to $3 million. This is the K-shaped recovery. That's up 78% year over year. And 5 million, we're talking about very small numbers, but the point is that if you're targeting your marketing, like you want to farm an area, what price range, right? This would give you some guidance. If you're looking at what areas in Santa Clara County are the sales up, and by the way, if you're not in Santa Clara County and you're in Alameda County, talk to me, right? I could show you how to do something in that county that produces something very similar to this, but this is what I know. Thank you, Zoom. So Santa Teresa went up 82%. Santa Teresa is normally not a robust market, right? But it's a less expensive market. And it's sort of on the edge, right? And there's Costco and shopping and things like that. Willow Glen, always strong, 63% increase. Los Gatos, Monte Sereno, 53% increase year over year, right? The high end, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, San Martin, look at those numbers, 122 sales in that area. That's the highest of the top group, up 44%. Santa Clara, up 40%. Cupertino, 39. Blossom Valley, 38. Saratoga, 38. 26 in Sunnyvale. 21 in Almaden and Campbell, bringing it up at 12. I just listed all of the areas, the marketing areas that had double digits or greater. Now, if I were looking for a market that I was going to focus in, I would kind of look at this list, right? You know, just as an idea as to where the ground is fertile. Home prices, single family homes, year over year, median price. The median price of a single family home in November in Santa Clara County was $1,375,000. That's all. That's 10% over year, $125,000 increase. Look at the townhomes, right? Their increase was also $125,000, but that was a 14% difference. And look at condominiums. The prices went down. Median price of condominiums went down. And I have another statistic about condos coming up, but I want you to think about why, right? I'm going to throw this out as a jump ball, why? And I've covered, if you took all the mishmash that I've spewed out, I've actually given the what's going on with condos and townhomes. By the way, the San Francisco condo market has died pretty much. I'm just saying. The average sales price, which is higher because median is the one in the middle, and if you have $20 million homes selling, it throws the average off, but I thought I would throw it in. The average price of a single family home in Santa Clara County was 1.764 and change, 17% increase. Now notice that's a lot more than the 10% that the median was, and that's because the median is the middle and the average is the average, which means we had more homes in the high end. Right, so that percentage went up. That's why the average went up. Again, condominiums average is down. Why? What have we been talking about that would make condominium prices go down? If we're looking at the volume of the sales, which is taking all of the values and adding them all up, big increase. And by the way, I've had actually agents say, why do you do volume rather than number of sales? You know, why do you do volume? And my answer is very simple. This is the number that commissions are based on. I'm just saying, right? So the volume went up 51% for single family homes, only 5% for condominiums, 37% for townhomes. Why condominiums? Why? That's my question. Sales to list price ratio. So when people sold the property, how close were they to the list price? 3.5% over list price for single family homes. Condos, 0.5% over, 1.2 over if you're, and it doesn't, my system doesn't like the percentages because they're too small, but you see that people are generally getting what they're asking or a little bit more. Now, I looked at, your mileage may vary. Last month, there was a house on Sunkist, right? And it was a 4.3. It was listed for $3,295,000. It sold for 3.9. $605,000 over list. Yeah, 18%. Now, the property on Hawkins didn't quite make it in terms of the difference in dollars, but it sold for 30% over the list price of $1,988. It sold for $2,575,000. If you're thinking, wow, everybody's getting a lot more, we also had a property on Bryant Street that was listed for $18 million. The ones that do poorly are usually start with a bigger number. It sold for $17 million, $1,500,000 under list price, which was only 8%. And Laurel Glen, which was another property, it won the most under as a percentage, $2,500,000. I just thought I would share that, 14% under list. So that's the problem with an average, right? Some people are getting, the average might be 3% over. Some people are getting 30, and some people are getting 14% less. Price per square foot ratio, 10%, which kind of matches for the single family homes, the price increase. Inventory, condominium inventory went up 89%. Why? Single families inventory, these are the number of new listings. Remember I said that San Jose area was one of the areas that had an increase in the number of listings. Why do you think their condos are out of sync? That's my question for you. Why are condos out of sync? So single family homes had a 65% increase in new listings, townhomes a 54% increase, condominiums 89% increase. Months of inventory, how long would it take to sell all of the listings, given the number of sales in the last 30 days? Single family homes, it's under a month. Townhomes under a month. Usually we're looking at 4 months or so before we get to what's called a normal market. But condominiums, we have 2.3 months worth of inventory, right? So in this case, a negative number is better. So why? I'll answer that. Because condominiums look like apartments, right? And work from home in a condominium. Really? So what's happening is that people, I had a client a couple of years ago who bought a new home in Gilroy, which was a 4-bedroom home. He sold his 1-bedroom condo in Santa Clara to do it. So what's happening is, given work from home and all these other things, people are not as enamored with condominiums as they were, right? They'd rather rent, they'd rather move someplace else and buy a house. So you understand the people in the condominium market are more likely to want to get rid of it and move someplace where they can actually own a real house. I'm not saying condominiums aren't real houses, but you understand, not as easy to work from home, looks like an apartment, might as well sell it and buy a house someplace else. Median days to sell, single family home, 15 days was the median day to sell. Active listings, single family homes, we ended the month of November with 24% fewer active listings. I think the condo and townhome one was sort of messed up, but I'll look at that later. Condominium, contingent and pending, remember this shows what's coming. Those are up much higher for the single family home, so we know that there are a lot more under contract. Sales are up, prices are down, inventory is down. That's what I look like. If you're interested in talking about coaching or anything like that, I've gone on a little bit long. If you're in my coaching program, I'm going to talk about how to use some of this micro information in order to build relationships, in order to use it for marketing and that sort of thing. If you're not, well, you know, that's your problem. All right. I hope that was enough. Sorry, I went so slowly. Next week, I'm going to have a very special session. I'm having a very special guest, somebody who's actually good at this, right? I'm just saying, you'll be getting an invitation. Come next week, it'll be at noon because that's when my guest speaker is available, and I'm going to do what works for him. You're going to get an invitation. Show up next week. I guarantee you're going to like it. Thank you for participating. Stay safe out there. If you've got any questions, give me a call. All right. Bye, everyone.